Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Great to see you.
Good to see you.
Thanks for taking the time.
No problem. Shannon's right here. She's just
Awesome.
coming around the table here.
How's things been for you guys up there?
Been great. Everything's going really well, actually. It's been a relatively dry year, which makes it easier for us in terms of disease control. So
Yeah.
it's been nice, and we've gotten a little bit of water, I guess enough. So.
What phase are you? Are you guys currently welcoming guests for outdoor tastings and things like that?
Yeah, and Shannon's been really busy with that for the past month. It's been pretty crazy.
Yeah, I'm sure. Hi there.
Hi.
Well, I won't keep you guys very long because I know that you're very busy, but I appreciate you taking the time. As you know, instead of doing in-person visits this year, we're doing virtual visits. So this is our little virtual tour. But I would love to start off by having you to tell us a little bit about the background and the story of Silver Thread and, you know, the roles of the key people, including you two, behind it.
So you want our background or the background of the winery?
Both.
Both. Anyway, let's start. Our background of the winery.
You can start.
So Shannon and I are both from Saratoga Springs, New York. I have my master's degree in viticulture, well, in food science with viticulture and winemaking as my main thing that I did at Cornell. Shannon's got a master's from Virginia. She's got her diploma from WSET. We could go into more depth on our background.
Well, tell me a little bit about how you became involved with Silver Thread.
So I was a head winemaker at a local winery, and Shannon knew Richard through her previous job at the New York Wine and Culinary Center. And we had both visited Silver Thread, and we liked Silver Thread, we liked Richard. And he was quoted in an article about winery succession in the Rochester Democratic Chronicle back in 2009, talking about how he didn't have anybody to pass the winery on to, and he'd like to sell it. So we contacted him, and took 2 years, but we ended up taking control and buying it September 1st, 2011. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
And I always point out to people that at the time we bought it, we had about 10 years experience in the wine industry working for other people, because a lot of people, when we tell that story, they say, oh, so did you know anything about this before you, before you started? So
that would have been quite the challenge. Challenge as it was, I'm sure, but
yeah,
having no experience would have been.
We knew what we were getting into.
Yeah, for sure. Will you tell me a little bit about Silver Thread's philosophy, your location, things like that?
So we are located on the east side of Seneca Lake, about halfway down, just off the deepest part of Seneca Lake. The philosophy here is just trying to translate the spot from the grapes into wine without getting in the way. Really trying to keep a biological approach and managing the vineyard as much as possible, and really concentrating on the soil. And we really consider ourselves more of like the regenerative agriculture segment, where we're actively trying to make our site better than we found it, because there has been grapes here for 150 years, and the soil is a lot different in the vineyard than it is in the hedgerow. And I know that a lot has been taken from the soil, and we're just trying to get that back and really trying to harness the energy that is this place, and do the right thing for it. So I'm hoping that comes through in the wines.
Fantastic. Speaking of the vineyards, will you tell me a little bit about not only the estate vineyard that you work with, but the ones from which you source a few of your grapes as well?
Sure. So over 80%, 90% of our grapes are estate grown. So you asked about the vineyard management. What did you ask?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. So we haven't sprayed herbicides since, I don't know, 2015 or something like that. We have undervine cover crops under all of our vines. So if you look at our vineyard, everything's green. Really trying to keep things growing on the soil, to keep the microorganisms in the soil happy, and really trying to pay attention to promoting the fungal population in the soil so that they work with the plants to get the plant what they need from the soil. Really trying to keep the vine happy and healthy that way. You know, really trying to pay attention to the soil, get the microorganisms in the soil to supply what the vines need to the vines. Really, you know, I'm happy having, we always have somebody in the vineyard. Everybody, you know, somebody is in the vineyard every day during the growing season, and a lot of days during the off-growing season, trying to make sure the vines have what they need. And, you know, using a bio-intensive approach, it's really about, you know, how much biology can we use to do all the things that we need to do to manage the vines. So we're really trying new things all the time, trying to see what works best. We've had some setbacks and we've had some really good successes. So it's definitely a work in progress, but we think the wines have really responded well to it. So, and that's the ultimate test of the vineyard philosophy. So
fantastic.
And yeah, I like oh, sorry. I just wanted to say that under the previous owner, he used traditional, I guess it's called traditional organic farming. Yeah. Lots of copper sulfate and a few other things, but a lot of the biomaterials that we're using today weren't available when he started. So it's very cutting edge. And it's also, I think, worth pointing out that no spray farming is really not an option in this climate for the type of grapes we're growing. So a lot of people, a lot of consumers, I would say, who hear that we are, you know, close to organic, or, you know, they'll come in and say, oh, are you an organic winery? You don't spray your vines, right? And they, you know, there's a lot of misunderstanding, I think, about organic practices.
We have to spray our vines to have grapes in this climate.
Right. Yeah,
unless we were just going to do Concord or something.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, we talked about that a lot when we were, you know, adding New York to the guide this year. You know, the considerations that we're making for Slow Wine Guide New York are very different than the considerations when you're talking about like nice sunny California, right? So that's definitely something that we took into account when interviewing everybody this year.
Cool.
Excellent. I know this has been a many-year process for you both, but have you made any major changes to how you approach vineyard management in the past year?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the whole thing, you know, this is what, our fourth year with fifth year with some form of bio-intensive management. This is the first year.
I'd say it's the fifth year.
Yeah, this is the first year where we've really done the same program throughout the entire farm, which has been great. It's working out really well.
Before that, we were just kind of trying different parts on different parts, you know. So this was, I would say that after last year is pretty much after 2018, we felt like, okay, we're really onto something here. Like we're feeling much more confident about it. And then, you know, for sure at the end of 2019, that's when Paul said, we're gonna go with this. Like we kind of have a program now that we feel is gonna work.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And it's, I feel like I'm always changing. I don't think I'll ever do anything exactly the same from year to year, because we're trying to get better at what we're doing.
And then there's also, I mean, I would say this year was the first year we really started off with a plan. Like this is what we plan to do versus kind of trying to figure it out as we were going along. And then it's been funny because it's been a very dry year. We've had 3 really wet years in a row. So the plan that Paul had come up with was more of a wet year, like a wet year plan. And so then we've sort of been changing it a little bit as we go, because we've actually had a little more trouble this year with insects and not really with fungal disease. So it's, that I think that's kind of par for the course though in the Finger Lakes, because we always have to be ready to change the best laid plans.
Yes.
Definitely. Yeah, I remember last year when I visited you guys, it was pouring rain the entire visit, I think.
Now we'd be really excited if we got a day like that.
Yeah. So kind of switching over to speak about the winemaking side of things, how would you define your winemaking style, and how has your approach to winemaking changed over the years?
So, I mean, I'm very much try and stay out of the way of expressing the vineyard through wine. But I understand my job as a winemaker, if I were to be completely laissez-faire, that would lean towards probably bad things happening and not very good flavors, or not the types of flavors that I want in the wine. So I'm very much all about making sure that the fermentations go really well, and that I've got a wide variety of fermentation techniques and styles for every wine that we make. So every wine we make is a blend of many fermentations, even from the same vineyard. So most of the time, all the time on our own farm, we'll harvest the same variety from the same block more than once. And those will become different fermentations. Sometimes those will become multiple fermentations from the same day picking. So doing very different fermentation techniques in order to get the full expression and the full potential of the vineyard expressed in the wines. And their dry Riesling, I guess, is well, actually our state Riesling. Typically our state Riesling, we have at least 6 or 7 fermentations that are blended back into that wine. And I feel by having a wide variety of different yeasts, both native and inoculated or cultured yeast, gives me a wide breadth of expressions of the vineyard, and we get that complexity blended back in when we put all those fermentations together. So
fantastic.
Yep.
And I would say another thing that's really important to us is having all of the wines be a true reflection of that vintage. So I know some of the wines I sent you, at least 3 of them are 2019, and 2019 was a very cool fall. So we had kind of an extended ripening phase. We never got really big sugar accumulations. And the acids were fairly high. So we did adjust our picking time to pick things later. But then we really, we never make any adjustments to the fruit. The only adjustment we make is when we're going to pick it, and then a little bit with the winemaking.
The sugar that comes in is the sugar that we have. The acid that comes in is the acid that we have.
So the alcohol levels for 2019 wines were a bit lower than normal, but we we feel like we want the wines to be very honest and authentic from that vintage.
Fantastic. And you kind of touched on this a little bit, but what qualities do you want your wines to have in terms of, are they meant for early drinking? Are they meant to last? Or do you really just focus on what the vineyard wants to give you?
Well, I definitely feel like what we're doing in the cellar lends itself to a lot of mouthfeel and the potential to age, especially our Rieslings. Now, certain wines that we make, like the rosé, I don't really anticipate anybody's going to age that. But you can, and actually I've opened some 5-year-old rosés, and they're pretty nice. Shannon's not
we disagree on that. I don't like the
But we're definitely looking to make our wines something that can age, but also will be good upon release. So I stand by. I like my wines to smell wonderful and taste wonderful from the minute the fermentation starts to the time that it is poured into a glass. So whether it be now or 20 years from now. So we don't have a 20-year example. We have 10-year examples. Pretty good. So
Cool. And I would be remiss not to at least mention or address that this is a very strange time to have any kind of business. How have you been dealing with everything that's been going on over the past few months?
Well, we made a pretty quick pivot to doing a lot of online sales and virtual tastings online, beginning right in March. And we've been very successful with that. So that has compensated for not having as many, well, for being closed for in-person sales for a few months. And I've also been doing a lot of private virtual wine tastings for a lot of companies and family groups and groups of friends that want to do like an online wine class. So that's been another avenue.
Yeah.
You know, we have a good sized wine club and a really big mailing list. So we've been able to do pretty well despite everything that's been going on. And we've been reopened for about a month to do tastings here at the winery, and that's been going well. It's quite a few hoops to jump through to make it safe, but we've been doing you know, similar to how we would always expect to do during the summer.
That's great.
Yeah,
I'm
so
sure
a lot
people
of
are a little stir crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of strange because every week they keep announcing more states that can't come to New York.
Yeah.
So
they're dropping like flies.
Fortunately, I think the population of New York State is 18 million people. So there's still a lot of people who can come and who maybe don't want to go to any of the other states where the COVID cases are increasing. And so far we can still, you know, all the states in the Northeast. I think they cut out Ohio last week, and I just heard they're cutting out Maryland.
Maryland, yeah.
But we still have Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, you know, all of New England and New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. So that should be that should be plenty of
driving distance. Yeah, it's good.
And UPS still goes to the other states, so
right.